Dr. Farhan, what is the name of the?
Grade Slam.
Grade Slam.
Yeah.
That's your name. Grade Slam, recommended by Jess. Great opportunity for you guys to pay attention and see what he has to offer. Some of his ideas as far as, approaching, education and studying and skills and all that stuff. I don't really know about the stuff, but I'm right here and I want to learn. So I'm glad you came to talk to our kids about this. We're getting ready to start like a lot of our spring planning, leads all the way to the end of summer. So grades and stuff is something they need to definitely stay on top of during this busy time. So you're definitely grateful that you came out here to talk to our kids and educate them. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey guys, what's up? So I kind of want to make the presentation about Michael Jordan's education. That's the title of my presentation. So I've been studying.
Hold that ball.
Yeah, I've been studying Michael Jordan for a while. He's always been my favorite player, and I always wondered what made him tick. What made him the best? What gave him that edge over all the other players? So I studied him a lot, and I figured out 3 tricks that Michael Jordan used in his life, and I learned this from this book, to become the best player and to become not just an amazing basketball player, just an amazing winner at life. So I want to share that with you. But before I do that, I just want to introduce myself a little bit. So my name is Farhan, and I was the captain of my intramural basketball team back in Canada. And so I have a lot of team sports, and I understand the competitiveness, and I understand where you guys are coming from. So it's really cool what you guys are doing, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to let me talk here. So thank you so much for letting me do this. When I was a kid, there was a lot of, I always wanted, when I came home from school, I had several teachers that would teach me math, science, social studies, and then I would come home, and then I would need help in my homework, right? So either my parents would help me, or if they were busy, they wouldn't be able to help me. So I would struggle, I would try to reread the textbook 5-6 times to understand what was going on, just do all these crazy problems just to get an idea of to get good grades and stuff. So because of all that struggle, I wanted to start I wanted to be part of a system where we could tutor any student in the world at any time in any subject, right? And that is the company that I work for. It's called Grade Slam, and that is what we've kind of solved. It's really hard to do that because, for you guys, for all of us, time management's really hard. You're playing basketball, you're trying to get good grades, you're trying to make your parents happy. It's really, really hard life. It's really complicated. So what we wanted to do was make it very simple. Just an online system. You go on, you sign up. There's an online classroom, and you have a tutor one-on-one, right? So the tutor recognizes your weaknesses, your strengths, exactly how you learn stuff, and then just really efficient in a very simple and convenient way will teach you whatever you're having problems with. If it's your homework, it's preparing for a test, whatever it is. So that's the company that I work for, and I have some postcards that I'll give at the end, and I'll talk about that at the end a little bit more. So that's that. I wanted to now talk about the 3 tricks, right, that Jordan did. So in this presentation, think about why, what, and how. Okay? So whether you think of academics, basketball, life, whatever you think of why, what, and how. And that's how Jordan did it, right? If you can master these 3 things, then you are on your way to becoming a superstar, to becoming a winner, just like Jordan was. Okay? So that's what I learned from this book. So let's start with why. Okay? The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to talk about my personal motivation to, so I'll talk a little bit about myself. So I did my bachelor's in engineering, right? So I was a programmer. I worked for companies where I would, make software and things like that. And then I decided to study the brain, neurology. So I got a PhD in neurology. And so I spent 10 years studying the brain, how vision works. When you look in the visual field, how does the brain interpret those signals, right? How does the brain break down circles and squares and lines and faces, and how does all that happen? So that's what I was studying during my graduate school. So let's start with the why, right? So the reason I did all that is because I was always very interested in how things work, right? So that's why I did engineering, right? So like how computers work. Then I studied the brain. It's more like how do humans work and what makes us learn better and things like that, right? So if we think of that in terms of Michael Jordan's education, by the way, is Michael Jordan anyone's favorite player? Anyone? Okay, some people. Good, good. All right, awesome. Mine too. So one thing that I learned is that Michael he always knew why he was doing something, right? So when he was in high school and he wanted to be taller, right? So he would go and pray every night to God, God make me taller, God make me taller. That's all he would pray for because he was like 5'9", 5'10", and he wanted to be like 6'2", 6'3", right? Like his older brother. And his dad was giving a lot of attention to his older brother, say, hey, you're gonna become a basketball star. Mike will just play baseball or do something else that you don't have to be super tall at. But Jordan wanted to be a basketball player, right? So he would pray, he would go to the monkey bars and just like hang there for like minutes and minutes and minutes. He'd be like, you're crazy, what are you doing? And it's because he was trying to get taller, right? He was trying to like stretch his body. So he would do all these crazy things. And the reason he was doing that is because he had this drive. He knew why he was doing it, right? Because a lot of us, we try to do something, but we don't really know why we're doing it, right? And it's not easy to know. It's very, very hard to know why you're doing something, but you have to think about it and like motivate yourself, right? And that's why a lot of us come in, a lot of the educators to help you understand the why, right? So that was Jordan's why. We'll talk more about Jordan's why later. The next thing is the what, right? So the what is specifically what do you want to do, okay? So it's not like for example in basketball, you can't just say, I want to be a good basketball player. What does that even mean, right? What is about goals, setting your goals. So for example, let's say you're shooting, let's say you want to be a really good three-point shooter, right? And you're taking threes and you're, let's say you're 30%, right? Out of 100, you hit 30. So your goal might be, in 1 month, I will become 35%, right? I will practice so much that I will climb 5%. So now you've set yourself an actual goal, right? So like Michael Jordan, in his education, he was really good at everything, but there were some things he wasn't good at, right? So for example, there was this one time, it was right before the summer, he was like working really hard and he was like struggling, so he went to his coach and he said, look, this is in college, Dave Smith in North Carolina, he's like, look, coach, I can't do this anymore, I'm like too tired here, he's like, this is too much for me, so I'm gonna take the summer off, and you guys will see me in a few months, right? So they're like, okay, that's fine, I mean, we're gonna miss you, but that's fine, do your thing. And then the next morning, he was right there in the in the court practicing, like right there. Like 7 hours later, he was practicing, right? They're like, what are you doing here? What do you practice? Like, coach, I gotta get better. I gotta get better at my jump shot, right? So Michael Jordan had these specific goals, right? Whether it was because there was this thing back in the day called Jordan rules. What they would do is, coaches would have these rules that they made just for Michael Jordan because he was so good at driving and passing and defense and everything. They had rules just for him, right? So one of the rules was make him go left. And when he goes left, like on top of the key, you double team him right away. So he can't do anything, right? So he started working on becoming better at going left, right? So he was like a specific goal that he had in mind, right? So, and then, there was a lot of coaches helped him, like Phil helped him when he became from assistant coach to head coach in Chicago, etc., right? So Jordan really knew the what, right? What the goals are, what exactly he needs to do. And then, if you move on to the how, right? So the how is where I'm gonna talk a little bit about like study tips and how you can get better grades, like some tricks of knowing how to do that, right? So for Jordan, he knew so many ways in terms of how he can improve and how he can do what he wanted to do. So for example, he was very coachable, okay? So, I mean, this is the best player in the NBA. And a coach would come up to him and be like, hey, Michael, you need to do A, B, and C, and D to become better. And even if Jordan knew that the coach was wrong, because it's like, it doesn't make any sense, he would still listen, and whatever little tidbit, little nugget that he got from that learning, he would apply it in his basketball, right? So he was very coachable, he was very humble, right? Even though he's the best basketball player, he'll do anything to win, whatever it takes. He was still humble. So whenever he would meet a new coach, the coach would be like, hey, Michael, hey, what's up? Let's shoot some hoops. He's like, no, before that, I want you to tell me what can I do better to become better at basketball, right? So he was very humble all the time learning, right? And the other ways of how, right? So it's basketball, as you guys know, it's not just about physical toughness, it's also about mental toughness, right? I actually interviewed one of the guys who played with Michael. He played with Michael, he played with Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. He was like doing pickup games before they made it to the NBA. So I interviewed him recently. And he told me that these guys like Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, even Kobe Bryant, super in LA, so Kobe Bryant, these guys have this like intangible thing, like this work ethic, this really strong drive that the rest of them don't have. Because if you think about it, and the NBA has 300 players, right? And there's more than 30 million kids in the world playing basketball, right? So out of those 30 million kids, only 300 will make it to the NBA. So that is, it's very tough. Just like anything else, it's very, very tough, right? So these guys, like Jordan and Magic and Larry and Kobe, they have this work ethic where they will do everything and anything it takes. So like Jordan, right after he would like win a championship, or he would win, the season would be over, for the next 2 months, he would go and work out at the gym. He wouldn't even go home to his wife. He would just be like, I'm gonna go and I have to prepare. And for 2 months, he would just like work at the gym, right? And bigger biceps or bigger calves or whatever it took to win. So he did that, right? So very devoted. So he knew how. So these are basically, it's very basic, 3 tricks that Jordan applied to become a great basketball player. The why, what, and how, right? Now, how does that help you guys, right? How does Michael Jordan's education help any of us? Well, we can learn a lot from how his work ethic was and apply it to our own, right? So let's talk a little bit about academics, right? So how many of you, raise your hand if you know exactly how you learn best? Anybody? Okay, very few, or nobody almost. So I was just like that, like exactly like that, right? It is very hard for us to know exactly how we learn. Like, are you good at visual learning? Are you good at auditory learning? Do you learn by doing things? Do you learn by talking to people and doing presentations? You don't know, right? It's a trial and error, it's an experimentation process. Just like Jordan, he would experiment with things and figure it out. So one trick that I would give you guys is figure out how you learn. It's not easy, and we're here to help you at Great Slam. We have study tip tutors and stuff like that, so that's fine. But just for you guys for now, figure out how you learn. Whatever way you learn the best, study that way, okay? So that's the first tip. Figure out how you learn. Very, very fundamental and important. Second tip is figure out if you are better at learning by yourself or with a team. Okay, so just like basketball, right? Imagine like you have a coach here, a great coach here, right? Now imagine you had to play basketball and all you had was just you, right? So you have to practice all day, alone, no team, no specialist in 3-pointers or no specialist in post-up. You're just gonna play and then you're gonna have a team and you're gonna go and face some other team. Now the other team, if they've played together, they've run the plays, right? They've worked together, they've run the drills together, they know the fundamentals, they're gonna beat you guys, right? Because you don't have teamwork. You're gonna be confused, it's gonna be chaotic, you're not gonna know what to do, right? So try to understand if you work as a team. Now if you are very good at working as a team, study with a team, right? Just in basketball, I mean, look at the Lakers, right? What happens? When they need back in the day, right? When they needed a 3-pointer, we went to Fisher, right? Fisher shot our 3, or Robert Ory, he shot our 3, right? So there was always a specialist. If you had 5 seconds left in the game, you gave the ball to Kobe because he's the specialist in ending games, in closing games. So when you study as a group, let's say you decided to form a study group, figure out what each of those students are specialists at, right? So let's say one of you guys is a specialist in math, another one's a specialist in science, or some subtopic in science or math, then that person can master that part and teach it to the others, and you learn together, and at the end, all 5 know all the topics, right? So that's the next study tip. Work as a team if you can learn as a team. Now, sometimes people learn by themselves better, so that's fine. Just learn on your own, but try to balance, try to do multiple things and experiment, okay? The next thing is be efficient at learning, okay? So this is where the why comes in. If you're studying math or studying science or government, economics, whatever you're studying, if you don't know the why behind it, why you're doing it, you might study it and then forget it after the exam. I did that too. A lot of us do that, right? But now I want you guys to learn from mistakes that I made, right? I mean, I still did good in academics. I had to work like 5 times more and spend like 10 extra hours every week. I don't want you guys to do that. Figure out the why you're learning math. Look at Jordan, right? Once he finishes his NBA career, he leaves, right? Okay, the first 3 championships, he left, right? And then he came back and picked up right where he left off. Why? Because he had the fundamentals down. He knew why he was playing basketball. Right away, he wins 3 championships again, right? Now, for you guys, you want to figure out why you're studying the math problems, or why you're studying the science. So like, if you think of Jordan, once he left NBA, he became the owner of the Bobcats, right? He's the owner of the Bobcats. So the math that he learned, or the finance that he learned in school, that is going to help him now in business. Now, when he was a basketball player, he didn't know he was going to own the Bobcats. He had no idea. But now, when he talks to his accountant or he talks to his financial advisor, he knows what he's talking about. He knows how to deal with money because he studied that in college, right? Dolores, who's Michael Jordan's mother, she always enforced education and academics on him. And even when Jordan was doing well, he was going to make it to the NBA, he still went and got good grades. He's like, no, I'm still going to do those exams. I'm still going to make my A's and B's. And that's how Jordan was. He was really good in academics as well. So be efficient. That's the 3rd tip, right? And so essentially, what I want you guys to get, from this presentation is, let's learn from MJ, right? And use his work ethic and his motivation and his advice and his wisdom in our own life to have better grades, go to better colleges, play better basketball, and just like live a more fulfilling life.
Thank you for coming and talking to the kids about this. And thank you for the free hour.
My pleasure.
That's pretty big, for him to come and offer that to us. Very interesting.